The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. What's up, Jimmy?
Hello, my friend. How you doing, Tyson?
I am doing really well. I feel like I'm sort of, well rested after a long week last week, and I had a couple deadlines at the beginning of this week. So the last few days, I'm actually on my fourth day of 75 hard, so I'm a little sore from that. But I don't know. I'm in good spirits. How about you?
Yeah, so we came up to Chicago and saw the Cardinals and Cubs the day after the conference ended, and then we came over to Michigan, and we've been staying at my sister's house this week. Heading back to St. Louis this morning, and we've had a great time so far. It's not often that we get all six of us together, so having us all together for a week's been pretty great.
Now, do I remember correctly that was your parents' old place?
Well, my mom and dad and sister bought it just a year and a half ago, so we've only had it for a little bit. And so, yeah, it's actually my sister and my mom are both here too, so that's made it nice. We went to see Top Gun last night, and everyone had fun, including my 76-year-old mother. So there's something for everybody.
Nice. So do you all Verbo this thing or Airbnb? Do you rent it out to people?
No, they might one day, but Carrie pretty much stays up here all summer. So that's not really working, but they do a lot of entertaining and having a lot of their friends over.
Nice. I've always heard going up to Michigan is just amazing. We've never done it, so that's something I've wanted to do.
It's super easy from St. Louis. It's a 6.5-hour drive. So and then you're on the beach on Lake Michigan. So it's pretty darn easy.
Well, don't tell Amy, but I'm looking at planes, 6-seater planes, a Saratoga and a Bonanza. So I'm whispering because she's upstairs. But I would be able to fly up there, which would be pretty amazing. So pretty excited.
It'd be a whole lot faster.
Oh, yeah. So what you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about speed.
Ooh, dude, you're just referencing speed by getting places faster. So it's funny, for someone that's fairly slow on things, not on getting things done, but like on making decisions or coming around to things, speed. But although you're quick, here's the thing. What's interesting about you is you're a 10 quick start, right? But it takes some time for you to process ideas. Not that you're slow about it. It's just that you're methodical about it. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. What about speed do you want to talk about?
Well, one of my little side hustles is I sue USCIS because they're this big, slow, lumbering government bureaucracy. And I sue them to try to get them to speed up delayed immigration cases. It's sort of my bread and butter. It's the one piece of the law that I still handle myself. But it occurs to me in watching what's happening at my firm that we are becoming that which we hate. We are becoming the bureaucracy that is USCIS. We have baked in so many complexities, inside Filevine, outside Filevine, checklist, double checklist, review, peer review, supervisor review, that we have literally started to take on aspects of the government agency that we battle with every day. So the irony is not lost upon me, but I've been sitting in meetings lately with team members, and people love to make things more complex. Lawyers especially. Our law firm has a ton of high fact finders. So I'm just in meeting after meeting where people want to make things 3 times more complicated than they are. And I'm just like, no. So yesterday we were on a call And, we're just about done with Smith AI. We have our own call center. We have 5 people who just basically answer the phones all day and follow up with electronic leads. And they had sort of decided amongst themselves that they needed to get more information on potential leads than we wanted them to. That's something for the leads department, which is different than the client coordinators. And they were this close to setting up a system where they would ask for all this background information about a case. Then they would transfer them to the leads department, who would do it all again, who would then transfer it on to the lawyer, who would ask some more follow-up questions. And I guess what I'm saying is that we need to constantly review our systems to see if things have become more complicated than they need to be.
So this reminds me of your first iteration of Infusionsoft, my first iteration of Infusionsoft, where we built out, you had someone built out, I built out personally, all these complexities in Infusionsoft. And it's just way too complicated. It's funny. So we did something, we reanalyzed, 6 months ago, our intake process. Very similar to what you did, but what we found is what you found is like it was a bunch of like bouncing the ball to someone else and no one was taking the shot kind of a thing, as a basketball reference since the finals are going on. And so the ball was bouncing back and forth instead of someone taking the shot and getting the job done. So we've created this cares team, which is our leads team. And now we have 2 people on our cares team now, Jimmy. We're growing like you are. We're getting our team together, but they do all of that initial front, like all the front work. So the evaluation of the case, getting the case signed up, everything, opening the claim with insurance adjusters, getting all the letters of representation going out, getting all that stuff done at the very, very beginning, and then hands it over to an actual pod to actually do the legal work on the case. But what it does is it prevents that back and forth, because that's what was happening, was back and forth, back and forth. It goes from one person to another person to another person. We got really cute early on with our system, and we just simplified it. We said, okay, CARES team is doing everything. That's what they're going to do, all the stuff on this part of it, and then we'll hand it off, because we like to get cute with our systems, especially whenever you first start building the systems. I want you to think about like your first systems that you built out. Oh, this is going to be so amazing, right? You're going to like, you feel like you're like this mastermind of this thing that you're putting together, and you saw my mind maps, right? I can get kind of complicated with things. And so I think we do that. So just sometimes simple is far better than complicated.
I love that analogy of people not wanting to take the shots. And one of the things that I say often is that even on individual cases, sometimes at some point, somebody has to decide to pick the case up, put it on their back, and carry it across the goal line. You've got to like will the thing to be done. And so I love that analogy. And you're absolutely right about how we think our future systems are going to be perfect. And Adela has a phrase that she always says, which is, it's going to be magical. And so I think we get to that phase where we think, oh, well, if I just get this systematized properly, everything's going to be perfect. And the God's honest truth is that you have to be vigilant, because people are always going to try to do it their own way, tweak it a little bit, and they might have better ways to do it. But you really have to be consistent and vigilant, paying attention to what people are trying to add on. And, it's all, of course, I think generally with good intentions, right? They're not purposely trying to make things slower. But if there's one thing I've learned in working with Kelsey Bratcher, in doing everything that we've done on the marketing side, is that the faster we go, the more money we make. And I think that's absolutely true. That and I think, Tyson, I'm looking at our numbers this year. I think this will be this year. If we don't get things sped up a little bit, we're not going to have had the growth that we've had the last 3 years, which I'm sort of having to come to terms with, but we need to fix some stuff before we ramp up again.
Well, it sounds like you're probably coming into that maturation phase, which is completely normal when in the growth of a company. Sometimes, and I want to go back to the basketball analogy in a moment, but there is the maturation stage in a company where you kind of level out, and some would maybe even call it a plateau. And that's, it's completely normal. You can't have 3x growth every year. You just can't. It's just not. It's no industry has that growth. I mean, I guess some tech industry does, but it eventually will plateau. So what you're going through, Jim, is completely normal. So you were talking about putting things on your back, and then people trying to do things, and tweaking things and making systems. But do you know the term ball stopper? You ever heard of a ball stopper? Yeah.
No.
Ball stopper is, it means, you're passing the ball around. You got 5 people on a team, and inevitably this one person, they're a ball stopper. They get the ball, and they're the one that, like, they're dribbling around. They're not passing the ball. They're taking the ball to the lane, but they're not getting good shots off because they're a ball stopper. So the ball stops. They don't get a good shot off. They have a turnover, whatever it is. So that's a ball stopper. And you got to be very careful about ball stoppers in your firm. I am sometimes in a lot of things that and I know you are too. You call it log jam. I call it ball stopper, where, the case gets to us and things just kind of halt, right? They grind to a halt. So we got to be careful about that. And it's a good opportunity, though, if you're looking at your firm and to address that, where you probably need more people is probably what you need in that area. And so to prevent that ball stopping, you got to analyze your systems to figure out where you have the log jams so you can keep that case moving.
On a related note, our friend Marco Brown posted the other day in the Guild about how he's realized a corollary that the less that he bills, the more money he makes. And he made the point, it was, it's obviously something we talk about a lot, but he made the point, this is sort of obvious, because if you're doing all your time working on cases, you're not doing the things to help grow your firm. And conversely, if you are doing the things to grow your firm, you're probably not spending a lot of time on day-to-day cases. And I think those two things go hand in hand. But I also think, like, I was wondering if I need to have someone whose job it is to make sure that people aren't slowing things down, like the director of speed. I know that that's not a real thing, but I think almost like any new initiative has to be viewed through, does this speed things up? Does this slow things down? And are we willing to pay the price of it slowing down for the thing that we're trying to fix?
Well, I would say that you could name a COO, a chief speed officer, or director of speed. I think that could be a thing, because that a COO, that's kind of what their job is, right? They handle operations and they make sure things are operating efficiently. So I don't know. I guess you could have. I really like that title. You are really good for people that don't know. Jim is phenomenal at naming things. If you need a name for something, just call Jim and he will give you a name in like an hour. And if he doesn't get it within an hour, guess what? They give you your money back. So you're really good at naming things. But I love the idea of having someone. Now, I don't know how cost effective it is if it's not your COO, but the idea, if you could afford it, having one person, just all they do all day is picking at your systems to make sure that they're efficient and make sure everything's speedy. I think that's phenomenal.
If you think about a lot of the presentations at MaxLawCon 2022, a lot of them were about speeding things up, doing things better so as to speed them up, doing things better so as to give yourself more free time. Speed is an important yet often underlooked quality in a growing law firm, in a healthy law firm. When there's not speed and there's stagnation, I think that's a real sign that something might be off. I know that we have people who own their law firms who are low on quick start, but I think they're also the ones who sort of suffer with not getting things changed and wondering year after year why things aren't getting better.
Yeah, I love it. Can we shift gears a little bit?
Of course.
So there's this question that was in the Q&A on Tuesday that's been haunting me ever since. You probably know which question it was, but it was about, the question was along the lines of, been hearing about all these, great firms. You talk about all these great firms, but I didn't really hear a whole lot about, like, how do you practice law and run a firm at the same time? Like, it's usually the people are they're just business owners. They're not lawyers. And I got to tell you, it's been tormenting me because I've got this constant struggle about, like, wanting to try cases and being an amazing trial lawyer and running a firm. It's since the last 2 days have just been torture for me, because it's like, what do you want to do? Right? Because I know in my brain, it is in my heart, I tell myself something else, but in my brain, I know there is no way I can be an amazing trial lawyer and an amazing firm owner. It's just not possible. It is not possible with the amount of work that both of those things take. And so I don't know. Have you ever had that struggle? Because I feel like you probably haven't. I feel like you've always wanted to be a firm owner and run a firm.
One of my all-time favorite episodes of the Maximum Lawyer podcast was when we had our friend.
Great podcast, by the way. Really good podcast. You should check it out.
It is a good podcast. And one of my favorite episodes is when we had our friend Brian Lebovic on, and he has a very successful plaintiff's injury firm in South Florida. And he talked about what happened to his firm during COVID. And I think COVID is the great petri dish for this question that you're raising. You guys couldn't go to trial for a while, and varied. Of course, in Florida, it was a New York minute. In Missouri and St. Louis County, it was a little bit longer. But what I loved about Brian's share on the podcast was he talked about how COVID was like the best thing that ever happened to him because he had to sit and fix systems for almost a whole year. And he also realized that when he was in trial for a week, he thought to himself, it's just 1 week out of a month. I still have 3 weeks left. But then he remembered the 2 weeks getting ready for trial and the 2 days to recover from trial. That's your whole damn month. So, Dr. Stewart said it from the stage. She says it to me all the time. 168, 168. 168. Those are all the hours we have in a week. So I think, Tyson, if there's one thing we figured out on this show is you might be able to practice for a while, but if you want to break through maybe from level 2 to level 3, if you're still insistent on practicing law, that is your choice, but you're probably not going to have a self-managing firm.
Running your own practice can be scary, whether you're worried about where the next case will come from, feeling like you're losing control over your growing firm, or frustrated from being out of touch with everyone working under your license. The stress can be overwhelming. We will show you how to turn that fear into a driving force of clarity, focus, stability, and confidence that eliminates the roller coaster of guilt-ridden second-guessing and mistake-making to get you off that hamster wheel for good.
Maximum Lawyer in Minimum Time is a step-by-step playbook that shows you how to identify what your firm needs and how to proactively get it at every stage of the game, so you are prepped and excited for the inevitable growth that will follow. Name the lifestyle that you want, and we'll show you how to become a maximum lawyer in minimum time. Find out more by going to maximumlawyer.com/course.
Yeah, you'll never get to 4, I don't think. I don't know anyone that can get to 4 by you actually just practicing law all the time. Like or trying cases specifically. I guess I'm specifically talking about trying cases. If you're trying cases on a regular basis, do you know of any firm that's gotten to a level 4? Like the owner is trying cases all the time? Like, I don't know anybody.
Well, John Simon has, but he's one of a kind. I want to talk about that specific model. So Tyson, tell me, if you were to outsource or give to your team all the aspects of getting ready for trial, except for the part that you couldn't do and actually be the trial lawyer, still, how much time would that take you in one given case? You still have to be there in trial, right? Like you're the lawyer.
Yeah. So what's interesting, even if all of that stuff's done, let's say that it's a typical car crash trial. Well, so it's pretty simple, 3-4 days. I'm there for 3 or 4 days, obviously days and nights. But our approach is we get to know our clients, right? We don't just, so I'm going to be spending time with the clients and getting to know them, like visiting them at their homes, maybe even invite them over to my home, actually getting to know them, spending a lot of time with them. Then you got the time where I'm reviewing depositions and reviewing discovery and making sure that, I'd have to be involved at a fairly early time because we'd want to make sure we got the theme and the theory worked out and all the rules of the road worked out, because the rules really dictate everything. So, I'd have to be intimately involved probably. Let's say that I've got a team that has figured out the rules. I can trust them with the rules. I can trust them with working out, theme and theory of the case, getting the depositions, all that stuff done. I still got to get to know the clients. I still got to be there for the trial. So you're talking about, still weeks of prep for a case is what we're talking about. We're not talking about a small amount of time.
So if you had a fully optimized trial team and a fully optimized law firm where you really were just sitting there and saying, do this, 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 and this, like everyone brought their issues to you and you sat around and you said, yes, no, maybe, yes, maybe, let's see next week. Like if you could get it to that level, which I think is maybe a pipe dream, I think there has to be a significant amount of Tyson in law firm owner land. And I think that's inherently in conflict with Tyson, the Perry Mason trial lawyer land.
Yeah, I mean, no question. Like, there's someone I want to try to get on the podcast. His name's Nick Rowley. You may or may not know him, but like any of the serious PI lawyers know who Nick Rowley is. He is of our generation, maybe the best trial lawyer out there. He's amazing, truly amazing. And I want to know if he has like a practice manager. Like, how does he do this? He gets amazing results. It's quite incredible how many multi-million-dollar verdicts, like I'm talking like in the $20 million verdicts he gets on a regular basis. It's quite fascinating. I wonder how he does it. He must have a team that is just amazing, at least in my mind. I don't know how he could actually run a practice and try the cases like he does. So I want to pick his brain to see like, okay, how are you doing things? And maybe we can dissect it a little bit. Maybe he's a unicorn. Maybe he's like John Simon is, where John Simon is also, but John Simon also does have people that he's got a non-lawyer that runs his firm. That is, that I know pretty well. She runs the firm. She does a lot of the stuff that he doesn't do that allows him to try the cases. So I think that's a key element of this.
And I guess I would just ask you, what, I know that doing trial work is fun, right? But I mean, you said that I sort of shifted to wanting to be a law firm owner rather quickly, and I probably did. But at the end of the day, I asked myself, what am I really learning going to another naturalization interview? What am I really learning going to another green card interview based on marriage? I mean, yeah, it's sort of fun. It's sort of interesting. But to me, where I'm at right now, it's a little bit of the polishing the silver. It's stuff I've already done. I guess, trying to master the art of trial work is in itself its own noble pursuit. But at the end of the day, it might just be a noble pursuit and not the thing that's going to make you really happy.
That's true. I think part of my hesitation is I don't think that there's anybody in my firm that is nearly as good as I am at trying cases. And maybe that's maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe I need to go out and find someone that's better than me and hire that person. And part of it's ego. Like we kind of talked about ego before. I think part of it's ego. I mean, it's being able to like go into that arena and win. I don't know. There's something to that as well. So there's the ego part of it too. It's fun, but it is. It's nice going in there and getting those scalps. It's just that's just part of it.
So then I would say, if that's true, then I would just ask myself this question: what would have to happen, or what would it look like for me to sort of be past that? Not that you have to actively want to be past it, but like just ask yourself, am I doing this just to keep doing it or to feed my ego? Or what conditions would have to be present for me to feel comfortable? And maybe, like you said, it's hiring another experienced trial lawyer. I don't know.
It's a good question. What would have to happen for me to get past that? I mean, I'm not going to give you an answer to that question right now. That's a
sure.
Sit and think for hours kind of question. Interesting. Have you had something similar where you had to answer that question?
Well, I mean, we wrap up so much of ourselves and our identity as trial lawyers or immigration lawyers. And I have started to think of myself more as a law firm owner. I still practice law. I have an asylum interview next week, all that stuff. But I think that at the end of the day, our priorities and our desires change over time, and it's okay to be in either space. But in answer to that blanket question from Tuesday, I think that question was coming more from people who were asking themselves that question for the first time, right? Like,
Right.
Let's at least be deliberate in what we're doing. Let's not just muddle through. And I think that's really important. And I think that's sort of what Dr. Stewart was talking about at the conference of mindfulness, is like, let's not just go on autopilot and be a robot and do all these things. Let's at least be a little bit more deliberate, and maybe just once a week, think about, why are we doing this? Where are we headed? What conditions don't I like? What conditions do I like? What would I like to change? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's great. Dr. Stewart was amazing. So there is something you said about getting wrapped up in like our identity as a trial lawyer, as a lawyer, whatever it may be. So this is something that you talked about a lot. Death. You talked about death during your presentation a lot, and then I talked about it a little bit at the end of mine, which was interesting. And then there's been 2 suicides in Boone County, Missouri, recently. And it's kind of shocking to me. I mean, suicide has been a big thing lately. So the whole thing about being wrapped up or having our identities wrapped up in our profession, I think that may be part of the problem in our profession is maybe that, and maybe I need to pull myself away from that as that being my identity a little bit, because I do think that that's part of the problem is us wrapping ourselves in this profession. And I think all of the major professions like, doctor, lawyer, accountant, all that kind of stuff, I think that may be part of the problem. So I guess, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Because when you said that, I was like, I wonder if that is what's part of what's going on. And maybe if you're not as good at, you've wrapped yourself in that identity, and then you're not as good at it as you thought you were going to be, maybe that is what's leading to some of this. I don't know. Just thoughts.
I think it's a great point, because I think we need to be thinking about, what if this all went away? What if this all went away? Probably unlikely, but there's a freedom that comes from knowing that you would be okay without all this, without all this team, without this law firm, without this profession, that at the end of the day, if I stopped practicing law, or if somebody took my law license away, or if a president came and said no more immigration, if you are confident enough and centered enough where you know that you'll be okay no matter what, then I think that really cuts down on that tying myself to my identity. And I don't think it's healthy to tie myself that much to my identity. I think and this is why, we talked about having hobbies and being well-rounded and spending time with your family. It's not just to be a balanced person. It's to protect yourself from that trap of thinking that, this is all I am.
Yeah, I can't mention who the person is, but at an early mastermind, a person stood up and said that they were worried. They were making a bunch of money at the time, and they were worried that it was all going to go away. It was all going to go away. And it's always stuck with me. So it's funny. I actually constantly think about that, because it is one of those things. I think we do need to think about it, right? Something could happen. Whatever it may be. I do think we need to think about that, because what do you do if it all goes away? What would you do? And yeah, I think that's a healthy question. I don't think I think some people say, oh, that's a really negative question. I don't think so. I think that thinking about it, like, you're going to be okay, right? No matter what, you're going to be okay. I posted something in after I saw that the second person in 2 days had committed suicide. I posted something in the guild, like, no matter what, it's all going to be okay. So I think we need to know that, right? And I know we need to think about that in case something does happen to you or your firm. It's all going to be okay. And what are you going to do? Have that contingency plan in place.
And I think there's actually a freedom in the thought exercise of, what if I walked away? What if it wasn't that something bad happened to me and this got taken from me, but what if I decided I wanted to do something else? That's even more of a level of freedom, I think.
Yeah, like, I have had that thought, right? Just like, things would probably be a lot easier if I went and worked at a insurance company. It probably would be, but that was probably a bad choice. At a mortgage company. That doesn't mean I'd be happy, though. That's the other thing too. Like, just because it might be easier doesn't mean you're going to be happier. So that's another dynamic to this. I don't know. A lot of deep thoughts to ponder, for sure. I don't plan on walking away, by the way. I don't plan on walking away, but it's a fun thought. So,
all right, Jimmy, let's wrap things up. Before I do, I want to remind everyone to please give us a 5-star review if you don't mind. It helps us spread the love. So if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you want to join us in the big Facebook group, we would love to have you. So just search Maximum Lawyer and search for groups in Facebook. And then if you want a more high-level conversation, join us in the guild. Go to maxlawguild.com. Jimmy, what's your hack of the week?
My hack of the week is to leave more 5-star reviews. We always are wondering and asking, when are people going to leave us a 5-star review on Google? But if we actively give those out, I think the karma brings them all back to us. So I would encourage everyone to, even engaging in leaving reviews helps you understand how reviews work better, because you'll get notified when people use your review, or you'll get notified when your review has a certain number of reviews. So the act of generously giving out 5-star reviews is a great thing to do. I wouldn't encourage you to leave lots of 1-star reviews. I think the same karma would come back. So I would just encourage everyone to try to start leaving more reviews.
I love it. That's a really good one. I'm going to start leaving more reviews. It's kind of like sending thank you cards. I really like that. That's great. So my tip comes from the book Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree. It's a book that we may have mentioned on the podcast before. Ryan McKean has talked about it in the Guild. And it's understanding, go and read the book and understand the difference between owner compensation and your salary and actually paying yourself a market rate. It's really, really important to understand those concepts. And he talks about the book. I'm rereading the book now. It's funny. It's reopening my eyes to some things. So understanding the owner compensation, your investment returns versus your actual salary, understanding those differences and making sure that you are paying yourself a market rate. And that way, if you do at some point want to sell your firm, what it would take to replace you, what the salary needs to be to replace you whenever you bring on a new person, understanding how all those dynamics work when it comes to taxes. Go read the book. Really, really important. Good stuff. So, all right, Jimmy, it's been a really deep podcast, but a good one. So great chatting with you.
See you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.